Would I buy a used Can-Am Spyder again? Well, here are my thoughts, my views, and my conclusion after 1 year of riding. I've had my 2020 Can-Am Spyder RT Limited Edition machine now for just over 12 months, so I've got a fairly good idea of what it's like. I bought it used and it had about 20,000 miles on it, which is reasonably high. I looked into the various information that you can find on YouTube, and it states that a typical life for an engine on a Can-Am, it could be anything from 60,000 up to 100,000 and even more, depending on how you look after them. So if you're going to consider buying one, then there are some considerations here. I'm going to go through all the things that I like about my Can-Am, and these will apply to anything from like 2016 down to 2020 Spyders, and you know that it should give you an indication of if it's something that you want to buy. You've got to ask yourself first of all, why am I even looking at a Can-Am Spyder? Well, it's obvious, I think, for most people. There's a safety, there's a comfort, and there's a security that you don't get off a motorcycle. Not that there's anything wrong with motorcycles other than the danger aspect, but the Can-Am gives you a lot more safety, I think, and comfort. But there is a price. Literally, the price is high. I remember looking it up, and I think it was, yeah, there we go. I'm just looking down at my notes here. You could buy a Can-Am Spyder new for about 41,000, ready to ride out of the showroom. Well, you know, most of us don't have that money in the pocket, and there's a lot of other things you can buy for 41,000, which will give you equal comfort, like a car, for example. So, yeah, why do you buy one? Because it's the freedom to ride out in the open air, the comfort and the enjoyment you get from it. That's why I bought it. But I can't afford that sort of price. So I looked around and I bought my 2020 Spyder 1 year ago, and it cost me just about 20,000. So it's not a bad price. I gather if you're in the ballpark of anywhere from 16 to 20,000 for some similar, then you've got yourself probably a good deal. But you've got to watch out for things. So let me go through some of the things you need to know about the Spyder and the do's and don'ts to make your decision easier. So there's a number of good reasons for buying a used Can-Am Spyder. Obviously the cost savings, when you're looking at, as I say, 40-odd thousand for a new one, and obviously the newer ones are probably right up there now, and maybe getting more expensive as I speak. You know, you get good value if you shop around and if you know what you're looking for, but you've got to know what you're looking for. And some of the reasons obviously you go for, and if you're like me, obviously it's cost savings. I haven't got a lot of money, so I do have to shop where I can and get the cheapest that I can find locally within a reasonable distance. And I was looking at distances up to several hundred miles away and more to find good machines at a good value. And then in the end, I happened to find one very close, which had been sold the week before I went to check it out, or I was about to check it out. And then I found one just 50 miles away, and that turned out to be the machine I purchased. So if you can find one at the right price from a good dealership, and I do strongly recommend you go to a good dealership or buy from somebody that you really trust, has had the machine well maintained and serviced. Now, Can-Am Spyders, why do you buy them? Well, it's a top quality product. It's like buying a Rolls Royce, you know, it's the top end of a car market. It's the top end of a motorcycle or three-wheel market. It's the best you can get. And if you do go for the top end, you get that absolutely extreme comfort. The steering is easy. It's a beginner's machine. You don't have to have any previous motorcycling knowledge, experience, anything like that. You don't have to be leaning into corners or doing anything fancy. So yeah, you know, you're buying it for the top end market. It's got a heated grips, It's got heated seats. It's got all sorts of comfort and luxury that just make it the machine to have. And I'll go over some of those in a minute too. But the reliability is pretty good. The early machines, not so good. Some of them used to have electrical faults. The engine before the 2014, I think, and you can correct me in the comments down there if I'm wrong on that one, but I think before the 2014 version, you would have a smaller engine, and after that, maybe it's the 2015 and the 2016 onwards, you've got this bigger engine, which in fact is I'm going to read it off here because I'm not good at remembering stuff, but it's a 1330cc motorcycle. It's got about 115 horsepower at 7,250 RPM. It's got 96 foot-pounds of torque at 5,000 revs. It's not a slouch. It will go, and it will go well. I have no problems getting up to 80 plus miles an hour and cruising around on it. It does have cruise control. That's another thing. It does have cruise control. So that's a big plus. It's got a 6-speed semi-automatic gearbox system, which basically means when you start out, you have to press the lever, I should say, on the left-hand side, and you click through the gears at your own pace, so you can rev up to where you think it sounds right or looks right, and then you can change up through the gears all the way up through to 6th gear. And if you try and press it too early, it won't let you. So if you're going through the high street and you're trying to go up to 6th gear, it just doesn't happen. So it basically lets you know pretty well when and where. And also there's an eco mode which you can use, which will tell you when to change gear and things like that. I believe I haven't noticed that too much, but because I don't go by that, I go by sound. But it's definitely got the all the fancy bits. You've got an automatic windscreen that rises up when you start, and you can adjust the height that you want it to be, and it's got a preset memory, so it will remember that when you switch back on again. And like I say, it's luxury. It's Rolls Royce, and it's comfortable. And you've got a passenger who likes to ride with you. You can intercom up, and you can chat away. And the comfort zone is there. People ride several hundred miles on these things a day without any real fatigue. And, so that's another plus. The other thing is its customization potential. There's a load of pieces you can buy and fit or have fitted at a dealership, which won't cost you a lot of money, but they will enhance the vehicle. Well, in some cases, let me rephrase that, they will cost you some money because Spyder parts are pricey, and I tend to like to make my own and modify my own pieces, but I do occasionally buy the pieces that are pre-manufactured for sale for the RT. And the one that I did put in is a sway bar that stiffens it up a little bit at the front. I've also put in an extra lower lighting below the front of the trike, which is just a plug in and play. Anybody can do that. You don't have to take that to a dealership. Just buy it from Amazon or somewhere and pull the covers off, look at a YouTube video, and it's 30-minute job at the most. And it's simple. There's a plug there waiting for the socket from the light that you buy, and that adds you more light at the lower end of your machine down at the bottom near the road. And it's cool. It looks good. It's easy to fit. There are other things some people buy, and I have belt tensioner that rests on the tooth belt and helps dampen out some of the vibration, resonance frequency vibration that is common on these machines. Mine happens around about 48 to 55 miles an hour and then goes away. It's a frequency response resonation, and I've checked it with the dealership and looked around on the internet, and everybody says, nah, that's okay, that's normal. The other thing you'll notice about one when you buy one, especially if you're buying it second hand, you'll buy it and when you put it in gear it goes clunk, and you go, oh my God, that's not good. But yes, it is, because that's normal. That's the way they're built. And the same if you put it into reverse first, you get the clunk. But once you put it into gear, once, then that all goes away. It's just a startup noise with the transmission links through to the, but it's that's normal. So okay, what else you got? You've got the depreciation. It's not bad. You know, the prices don't go down too fast, which is bad for you if you want to buy one, but it's good for you if you want to sell it on again. And from a use point of view, if you're not a huge mileage rider, then you should be able to get a lot of miles out every year for quite a number of years if you keep it serviced properly. So I'll talk about servicing in a little while. But yeah, if you've got the capability of being able to do your own little mods, that's good. The other mod that I put on is a tire pressure monitor sensor, and you can look at that in one of my other videos. And I've got an external thermometer that's a very, very easy fix. Anybody could do that one. It's very, very cheap. I've got a sheepskin fleece on the seat to make it more comfortable, and that really is nice and helpful, particularly if you are riding a bit longer. And so you know, I fitted a rear trunk luggage rack, which is awesome, and that was cheap. That was like $30 to $40 off Amazon. And again, you can fix it yourself. I did a very detailed video on how to do that, so all you've got to do is look at my video and follow it through, and you've got a step by step. I always give a warning that I'm only doing these videos for entertainment purposes, and if you decide to copy or follow any of my ideas that I show on video, it's at your own risk, obviously, because I can't take responsibility. I am not a Can-Am dealer. I am not a Can-Am engineer. I have nothing to do with Can-Am. So I'm not selling the product. I am just giving you my information the way I see it. So you've got a lot of stuff there. Also, if you want to find out more, there's a huge community of riders and supporters on the internet. And if you hunt around on Facebook and Instagram and all the other places you can go, there's lots of people who've got lots of information of what you can do. And obviously the first thing you should do is, if you're going to do it, do as much research as you can using internet like you're doing today. And please keep watching to the end, like and subscribe, and leave comments if you want to. I'd be grateful for those. But if you do your due diligence, do your research, and find out whether this is a machine for you. And the easiest way to do that is to go and have a test ride. Any Spyder Rider supplier will be happy to let you take a ride out. They often have weekends where you can go and take a ride. So, you know, do that. And the thing about the Can-Am really is, it is a brilliant touring machine, and everybody says that, there's no doubt. If you're a hardcore motorcycle rider, good luck to you. You know, I've ridden them motorcycles over the years, and you know, they're great fun, but they're also very dangerous, and I acknowledge that. And some people will say, phew, I'm not going to get hurt. And then, you know, you get a friend who's killed or injured in a motorcycle accident, then you have a big problem. And there's other things we can talk about as well, about clothing and stuff, but I'll leave that for another time. The transmission, as I say, is great. It does the job. I did forget to say that when you're changing down, it automatically changes down for you. So as you reduce the throttle, it comes down at its own pace. If you want to speed that up because you want to do some more rapid deceleration, you can just tap the lever on the front of the handlebar, which is the reversing, not the reversing, it's the step down gear lever, and you can bring the gears down manually quickly as well if you want to. So you've got manual upshifting, and you've got automatic plus manual capability for downshifting, and that's great. So, you know, good pluses there. The storage is good. I'm not going to say it's brilliant. You watch a lot of these videos and people say, oh, it's got loads of space. Well, it has and it hasn't. If you're going to ride on your own, yeah, pretty good. If you carry the helmet around with you, very good. If you want to put your helmet and all your gear into the storage, you're going to find that you'll fill it up quickly. If you want to go off and do touring, then I strongly recommend you fit a luggage rack on the back so that you can strap an extra overnight bag on the top. Some people go to the expense of buying a trailer, a little towable trailer, and that works great too. The Spyder will pull a trailer as though it's not there. So, you know, you could do that, but they are like $3,000 or thereabouts. So, plus the trailer hitch as well. So, you know, again, you're getting into some money, but you might be able to buy a used machine with the trailer already there and allow for that. Because if you can save yourself $3,000 and you get a trailer, that's good. That's excellent. And that thing will resell the trailer. If you just want to resell the trailer, people will buy it. So, you know, you've got a good thing going there. Now, what else we got? We got brilliant braking. There's only one brake. There's nothing on the handlebars. So your left hand basically is free to just do up changes and down changes and press a few buttons on the handlebar. But the brake is on the right hand foot side, and it is powerful. I mean, you can press on that thing and I'll say stop on a dime, because literally that thing decelerates like you would not believe. It's got linking through to all three of the brakes, the ones on the two front wheels and the back. The wheels themselves are like car-sized tires, so you've got a huge footprint on the ground, on the rubber on the road, as they say, compared to what you have on a motorbike. And that's another plus from riding a Can-Am. And yeah, if you want, as I said before, if you are swapping over from a motorbike, it's a different sort of ride. It's like comparing, say, a sailboat to a windsurfer to a jet ski, you know, quad bike, whatever you want to compare them with. They're all different, of course they are. So they've all got their own little niche in the interest market, and this one's right up there. So also a plus for it, or a minus depending which way you look at it. It's got a 7-gallon fuel tank, and I'm getting around about I guess between 30 and 39 miles to the gallon, depending on how I ride it. I'm currently riding it in eco mode to see what difference that makes. Some people say don't bother, but that's something you want to consider if you're going to ride distances, that it's the range is basically in the 30s. So, you know, take that into consideration with, so you've got 7.3s, 210 miles or a bit more depending how you ride it. So what are things to look for when you're looking at your Can-Am Spyder? Obviously you want one that looks nice. It should have been well polished and shiny and looking brand new, because Spyder riders, we are a proud group of people and we like our machines to look really pretty. Most of us give our Spyder a name. Mine's called Wolfie. It wears a sheepskin, so I call it a wolf spider in sheep's clothing, Wolfie for short. That's my name. Others have got their own variations on that. So you've definitely got to name it, and if people are taking pride in it, they've probably got a name for it too. What things go wrong? Well, it's all down to service, really, you know, and how you ride. If you're riding out on the back roads and you're going up gravelly roads and, you know, stones flying everywhere and all that, you can shred the belt, as they say. You can get stones trapped on the rubber drive belt between that and the can and the drive sprockets, two drive sprockets, and they can lodge a stone and then start cutting into your drive belt. So check that the belt is clean and tidy and looks good. It should be tracking pretty well, maybe about 1/16 of an inch or so inside from the outer edge of the rear sprocket. It can be a bit more. It shouldn't be rubbing right up against the inside near the wheel edge, and it shouldn't be close to running right off on the outer edge, but it can be within I'm going to say a millimeter or two, or 1/16 or so of the outer edge, and that's okay. The tension should be set. You can do it yourself. There's a little tool you can buy, and it's not difficult to do if you're into that. If ever you've tensioned anything else, or you've played with motorbikes or bicycle chains, anything like that, it's about as easy. And again, there are videos showing you how to do that, so, you know, don't worry about that. You can get that done yourself. The quality, again depends on so heavily on maintenance, and of course the riding habits of the person who had it before you. You know, if there was somebody that really excelled and enjoyed riding, they will have had it probably very well maintained. If they're a weekend warrior or an occasional rider, may have left it sitting there in a shed in a garage, uncovered, untended, unloved, and no battery maintenance. Now, a battery lasts typically on anything from about 3 to 5 years. So if you take your that into consideration, you're going to have to buy a new battery, which, you know, these days batteries are about anything like $100, $200, which is not bad. And the dealership might throw that in, or whoever you're buying it from might give you some consideration reduction because of that if it's had the battery for a while. The battery is very easy to get to, and anybody can replace a battery. There's nothing hard about them. They're right inside the frunk. You unzip a zip and pull a little panel off, and there it is, and a couple of connections to undo, and reconnect, take the old one out, put a new one in, and good to go. So that's a simple one. There, you should change the belt when it starts to look like it's starting to get the teeth shaved or cut in any way, or if you see cracking on them, and they will go for quite a while. I don't have any information, but I'm sure if I did some internet research, I could find out, or you could find out, you know, how long they last. But it really does come down to where the Spyder's been ridden. If it's off roads in harsh, dry conditions, it's probably going to be worse. If it's been ridden in snow and ice and salt and all that business, it's probably going to be worse. But if it's kept off the roads during winters, and it's kept somewhere where it's well protected, well loved, with a cover over it, and you've put a battery tender on it so it trickle charges the battery, both the battery will last longer, and the machine will last longer, and be cleaner as well. They are a bit dust magnets. They will suck in the dust in the air, and you'll have a coating of dust on them because obviously the plastic. But you can use a plastic polish which has got a static discharge type of thing in it, so it doesn't cling, the dust doesn't cling so much. They're pretty easy to clean though. There's a lot of panels on them. If you are going to do maintenance, you better get used to pulling the panels off. It's not hard, but you know, you allow yourself half an hour to an hour to pull the panels off if you're going to get to the innards. And that's why you pay quite a bit to the dealerships, because obviously they're going to have to do that, and if they're going to take half an hour to an hour, you know, that's a $85-$100 an hour probably, or more. I don't know what they charge, but that comes into consideration. So doing it yourself, you're going to get a better bang for your buck. The climate exposure, as I just mentioned, it is very critical. I won't ride mine in the winter time. We have a lot of salt here in Council Bluffs and grit on the roads in the winter because of the conditions we get. So I won't take it out. Most riders that I've talked to don't like to ride motorcycles until the temperature gets up into the 70s. Now other people who ride to work daily, that's, you know, a different game altogether. But we're riding for fun and pleasure, and you know, it's an easy machine to ride. But who wants to ride out in a freezing cold day with a 30-40 mile an hour gusting wind? Well, I do, but you know, it's I prefer not to. So, and I ride when the temperature, like I say, is in the 50s and upwards. But I prefer it when there's no wind, or no wind from the north or northwest, because that's a chilling wind. If the wind goes round to the south, I'll ride from 50s upwards and get pretty warm. In fact, getting warm enough to take off the liners outside the clothing that I wear. I wear all the gear all the time because that's the guy I am. I always have been. I've only ever come off a motorcycle once, and I broke my ankle, and I had all the gear, including leather boots. But I have seen people in hospitals who've had the skin shaved off as they slid down the road after being hit by somebody or coming off a motorcycle, and it's not a pretty sight. It's also extremely painful, I'm told. So, you know, bear that in mind when you think the freedom is yours and you can ride around without a helmet and you can ride around in your flip-flops and your shorts. Of course you can, and good luck to you. But remember, there's somebody out there who's got your name on the front of their vehicle and they're trying to find you and knock you down. So, that's up to you. It's horrible wearing full gear in hot days, and especially when it's up in the 90s and up there. But you can get mesh versions of jackets and pants which still have the reinforced armor inside them. So if you do come off, there's a better chance that you will have protection, and you do get a little bit of cooling. But to be honest, sitting still in traffic on a super hot day is no fun. Motorcycles or spiders or anything else, if you're inside a car, that's when you're happy you've got a car. But the rest of the time, it's good fun being outside in the air. So I don't find the helmets and all the clothing a hindrance. It takes a bit of time to put them on and off, but so what? It keeps you safe. What usually breaks? Well, from what I've read from the historical side, and a lot of this applies to Can-Am Spyders of before 2014, 2016. So some of it's relevant now and some of it isn't. Some people get false codes and codes thrown up by the EC or CPU, the electronic control unit on the vehicle. I've never seen one. I've never had one. And sometimes you can get one that'll lock out your parking brake. But there is a way of getting around that. And again, if you watch a couple of the videos, you can find that, and it's an easy fix. But probably watch it before you start riding, and then at least you'll know how to do it. The other things that can be an issue are things like the radiator clamps and hoses may crack or leak over time, and that's something you want to check as you get into an older version of this machine. If you think about it, the rubber hoses will fail on any vehicle, so you want to keep an eye, look out underneath. I usually put a piece of cardboard underneath my Spyder and cars in where I park them, and then if I see any water drippage on there, it's possibly at the back end. It could be on a vehicle like a car or a truck. It's probably just condensation coming out the tailpipe. But if it's under the engine area, then check it. Is it coolant? Is it oil? If it's oil, you've got an oil leak somewhere, something cracked or coming loose. If it's coolant, you've got a hose clip coming loose, or worse, you've got a split or crack developing in the hose itself. And if it's coming out a lot, it's probably you've got a stone gone into the two front air ducts, and they've pierced and made a hole in your radiator, which is going to be a pricey fix. You could again buy yourself a replacement, but it's a big strip down, I gather, to do that. But you can also buy guard screens to put inside as a kit, or you can make your own, and you'll see in one of my videos eventually coming up in the next few weeks that I'm having a go at making my own, being a do-it-yourself mod guy. You can see if you wanted to try and make them yourselves, they're not too fiddly, they can be done, and yeah, go for it. But protect your Spyder by making sure that you don't go riding on places. But it's these big rocks that come bouncing down, or even little rocks that come bouncing down off trucks and things at high speed. So if you're on an interstate or something like that and somebody's traveling at 80 miles an hour and that rock's traveling 80 miles an hour into your radiator, it can push through the screens, the grills that you've got in there. So that's something to be aware of. But that's about it, really. The tires will wear down, especially if you're one of these guys that likes to gun it away at the lights and all that stuff. I let it build up gradually, but it's got terrific acceleration, and you don't need to worry about being a slouch anywhere. If you want to make a join on an intersection or get off the lights first, with care, because there's always going to be somebody that's going to try and turn in front of you. But if you if you are going to really gun the engine, it will go. I'm not going to say it'll do a wheelie by any means, but it's got enough to start taking the rubber off the tires if you push them hard. Same with your driving technique. If you're one of these that really want to throw it around the corners hard, obviously those tires are going to take some of a beating each time, because it's you know, it's like running them on glass paper, sandpaper, and so they will grind down. So you can expect to replace your tires. When I bought mine, they gave me a complete set of 3 new tires, and that was at 20,000 miles. I don't think it had a change before then. I may be wrong, but they put me brand new tires, a brand new belt, and you know, they've been going strong. And I've done about 3,000 odd miles on it now over the year, and we've been out in all sorts of hot conditions and on country roads, but not into gravel and stuff like that. So that you just want to consider those things, that you might have to get some parts replaced. If you're wondering if there was a bad year for Spyders, then probably the 2013 model had a lot of recalls. So that was probably the worst one. There was something to do with a heat issue, which could burn the rider's legs and give extreme engine heat output and even start fires. But I'm sure that got taken care of. But if you're looking, probably avoid maybe the 2013. If you're going to buy, generally, obviously, just look around and see what the person selling is doing with the machine. When take into account, when you're looking at the cost or the price they're asking, what extras it has on it, because obviously they'll price them that way, as will a dealer. In the second-hand market, you'll get charged a bit more if it's got all the fancy bits, and the fancy bits are something like the sway bar, the belt tensioner, extra bits of lighting, and there are various like handlebar extensions and a few other items, which again you can look up and find a whole list of them. But for the most part, if it's a pretty stock machine, then an idea of what it should cost you, I'll just go into that next. For a rough idea of what you can expect to pay for a second-hand machine, I usually look at the year and basically think about, like, a 2020 is probably going to cost you 20,000, a 2018 is going to cost you 18,000, a 2016 is going to cost you 16,000. That seems to be the way it goes. It may be just my imagination, but whatever it is, you know, bear that in mind. And by comparison with some other options, as you're looking at machines, the Can-Am Spyder, as I say, is probably somewhere around about 16,000, maybe for a 2016, or less. And if you can get it for less, then that's great. You know, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It just means that my estimates, based on what I've seen on YouTube, are just not accurate for the time that I am producing this video. At the same time, a Riker, which is a slightly cheaper machine produced by Can-Am, which is a lot of fun, generally a single seater, and you can pay about 8,500 or so upwards for a similar machine. A Polaris Slingshot is probably going to be about 20,000 for about the same year, and a Goldwing trike is probably about 25,000, and finally a Harley trike is probably about 29,000. So you've got, these are base, if you like, prices for the machines based on information off the internet. I don't know how reliable that is, and again, you could look around and see, but you know, the Spyder, when taken into account with like the Goldwing trike and the Harley trike, they're not that far away. I think the Spyder RT Limited is probably the best trike out there for lots of reasons. I don't like rear wheel trikes as much as front wheel. There's scientific proof that having the wheels at the front makes them a lot more stable, and with the sort of electronic speed controls and power steering and all the other things you've got on the Spyder, I think it's the one to look for in preference. But you know, look at them all and see what you like. And you know, I'm not an expert, so this is just my opinion. Okay, what else to look for? Find a dealership go look in the dealers and see what they've got. You know, you can look at the new machines, you can look at second-hand ones. If you live in a part of the country where they have lots of machines in a big dealership, you'll have lots to choose from, and they'll probably let you ride any one of them if they think you're serious about getting it. If you're, you know, have a look, see if you can find a certified pre-owned model. You can look on the online marketplaces and check websites like Cycle Trader, Craigslist, eBay Motors, or Facebook Marketplace for listings. Bear in mind there's a lot of scam artists around that will you know, try and part you with your money or part the money from you and list bogus things. So be careful what you're doing. If it looks too much of a great deal, it possibly is not the great deal that it looks like it is. Local classified ads, you know, and local places where people are selling them. If you've got quite a few machines around, there's a good chance that some of them are being swapped out and upgraded. Some people upgraded. Some people like to move to a new year every 3 years or so. So you can pick up a good dealer's machine secondhand, or a private sale secondhand. You just have to do a bit of research and make sure you know what you're looking at. Things to look for are things like, obviously, the mileage. The lower the mileage, the less wear and tear, to a point. If that machine has got ridiculously low mileage, it means it's possibly been, and it's an older machine, it possibly means it's been sitting somewhere in a garage or a shed, or even in the open for a long period of time without the engine being started and run. And Spyders, they recommend that when you're checking your oil levels, you should go for at least a 10-mile ride and then check the oil level. So that's to make sure that you've got full circulation through all the systems, the gearbox and all the transmission and all that. So a minimum 10-mile ride is enough to get the oil distributed throughout the machine, and then you check the level to make sure it's right. Now, if that machine's been sitting somewhere unloved, uncared for months on end, or even longer, then obviously there's a chance that the oil has drained away or seeped away from the spots, and moisture could have got in, and you could have the start of rust and corrosion inside the engine. Not a good thing. So a regularly ridden machine with slightly higher mileage is probably worth more than one that seems like a bargain with very low mileage. So be careful there. Also wonder why people are selling a particular machine. If it seems like, as I say, it's a great deal and the prices are ridiculously low, then there's something fishy going on there. You might want to look into it. You might get a great deal. It might be somebody who's just got too old to ride and just needs to get rid of it. But on the other hand, you know, be careful. So the forums, a lot of people sell through forums and the local classified in newspapers, if people still get newspapers. But you know, you can look around and find stuff, but you do need to check the mileage then. So service records, all dealerships should supply you with a record. There should be a maintenance history, especially for oil changes and things like that. So make sure you've got those or that information. I looked up the price guidelines online for a 2020 Can-Am Spyder RT, and this is basically what I found on this particular one. It said a price range of, depending on the condition and the mileage, expect prices between 16 and 22,000. So like I say, you know, you could get a good deal, you may not, but you might get a great deal if the dealership is trying to move one, and because they've got more stock coming in or they've had a trade in, then you could pick up a really good deal. And if you're not worried about the mileage situation, and like I say, these things, yeah, you might get a lemon and it might blow up on you the next day, but you might get one that runs for 150 miles, 150,000 miles or more. And with proper care and maintenance and oil changes and all that, there's no reason why these machines shouldn't run for a long, long time. You will find that prices, if the mileage is under 10,000 miles for a 2020 Can-Am Spyder RT Limited or RT, then you could expect the price to be higher. And you know that while the price goes up with the lower miles, it also comes down with the higher mileage. And as I say, I paid 20,000 for my 20,000 mile machine, and or 19,000 for 20,000 machine, and also the way it looks. You know, if the seating looks good, you can get things like upgraded seating. You can get things like a backrest. That's a good one to have. I've forgotten to mention that before as a mod. That's an easy one to fit. There's just a little slot there that you buy the seat and the kit, and you push it into a little slot, and easy peasy. Anybody could do it. You don't need to take it to a dealership to do this one, unless you want to. The audio system on it's great. I don't use it because I don't like to listen to music and things while I'm riding along. I prefer to look around and chat, and because I do a video vlog, obviously I can't be listening to music while I'm talking. Some people say I talk too much, but that's by the by. And if you've got the chrome accents like mine does have, then that pushes the price a bit more. You've got various places and ways you can negotiate a little bit. So a negotiation tip will be obviously to look around and see what the marketplace is doing, both online like a Cycle Trader or Facebook Marketplace, and look at the dealership inventories at various places to see how they're comparing, because you might find a couple of thousand or more difference with one dealership for a certain year compared to another. But you do have to take into account that you might have to ride a long way or drive a long way to pick yours up. Now, if you're okay about riding somewhere, staying overnight for a few nights, doing all the paperwork and then bringing it back, you've got to obviously arrange that and have two people probably want to bring your vehicle back, and then you're going to ride it. Or if you're going to trailer it back on the back of a vehicle that's got a tow hitch, you could do that. But you do need an extra wide trailer for these Can-Ams. They're not a normal standard trailer you can buy from a local trailer distributor. You'll have to look out for an extra wide if you get one, and it could be useful to have for if ever you have a breakdown. But sometimes there's a person in the Spyder groups locally who has one, and if you have a breakdown, sometimes you can call them up and they'll come and get you, and obviously you pay them a bit of money for doing that, but that's another possibility. What else can I tell you here? I'll look up some more detail, one moment. So a rough guide to maintenance costs. This is taken from information I got off the internet, and I don't know how accurate it is, what year this was produced, but this is just a rough guide and it may vary considerably. So approach the dealer and ask them directly, and they should be able to tell you. A 3,000 mile service and a 9,300 mile service is going to cost you something like $220 a go. A 3,000, that's for an F3. For a Spyder RT, you're going to be looking about $240 plus for a 3,000 mile service. So what should you expect to get for a 3,000 mile service? Well, according to the information I've got, they check and replace the engine oil. They'll perform diagnostic software checks. They'll check the brake fluid level for you. They'll check the engine coolant level. They'll inspect the throttle twist grip operation. They'll check the lighting system. They'll check the control switch operation. They'll inspect and adjust the belt drive. They'll check the front wheel lug nut torque. Make sure your wheels aren't falling off. They'll check the rear wheel axle nut torque, same reasoning. They'll inspect and adjust the parking brake. They should also be checking and retightening the exhaust pipe, the clamping rings, joints and gaskets, replacing the fuel filter, replace the hydraulic control filter module. That's on the SE6 model only. Replace the evap canister, pre-filter, replace the spark plugs, check the front suspension arm, rubber bushings and road test. So you get all that for your money. The basic oil change on a F3 model is going to be somewhere upwards probably of $150, and for a RT model it's going to be something like $180 plus. You could do those two yourself if you're willing to. It's not difficult, but there's a lot of panels to remove and stuff to do. So whether you think you're getting good value or whether you think you're being cheated on, it's not really necessarily like that. You know, the dealerships are usually good guys who are enthusiasts, and they're going to do you a good job. They're not going to try and rip you off in most cases, and their time, you know, is money, and they're going to take a lot of time taking all these panels off and putting them all back on again without scratching everything. So you will get sometimes what you pay for. You can do it yourself, but can you do it properly? And if you don't feel comfortable doing it properly, then don't do it. Spend $150 or $200 and have it professionally done. It's well worth it. Replacing the rear tire, I've got a price here for about almost $400 to replace a rear tire, and a front tire each is going to be upwards of $150. The front brake pads are going to be probably $160 plus, and the rear brake pads probably $90 plus. So you know that money's mounting up, and it's the way of the world. If you go and buy them, they're expensive items, and especially now with changes with the way the country's working, the tariffs and things could push these prices up quite a bit, especially as stuff is coming out that is originally coming out of either China or Canada or some other country. If the service requires a laser alignment using the TrueTrack system that the dealerships have, again you're looking at probably well upwards of $150. If you're having a 28,000 mile service, I know we've jumped from 3,000, but a lot of the other things are fairly, you know, rolling on. If you're having a 10,000 service or a yearly checkup or whatever, you can check with the dealers and you've got some idea. But for example, when you get to the 28,000 mile service on an RT, it's probably going to cost you something like $700 without spare parts. And if you're looking at a F3, that can actually be even more, which is about, you know, 850. It's all down to parts and how much wear and tear the machines can take and how much you're pushing them. If you're buying a second-hand one, some of these might have already been done. If you've got a low mileage one, you may have plenty of time before that you reach all these things. So you know you're getting a good deal if you get the right machine that's already got them done and the price is right, and you're getting a good deal if you've got plenty of mileage left without having to put them on straight away. Maybe you can sell before the 28,000 mile service. You could sell it and you know, you wouldn't have to pay that other, getting up to $1,000 worth of stuff by the time you've added in taxes and stuff. So yeah, all right. How can you make sure your Can-Am is reliable? Well, you want to treat it like a sports vehicle. It's like a motorcycle or an off-road vehicle and all that. You want to ride it, get the thing out and ride on it and enjoy it. And it's the hobby is in itself a lot of fun. And me, I crave to get out and ride. I want to do it at least once a week at the very least. And I really pine for it during the winter time when the weather's too cold or there's snow and ice and salt on the roads. But once I get a chance, I get out there and ride as much as I can. If you are riding and you like us in the Midwest here with the strong winds that develop especially through the spring, then plan your rides to go, if the wind's coming out of the north, go north and south. If the wind's coming out of the south, go north and south, because that way you've got the wind either directly at you or directly on your back. If you go to the east and west, you're going to get a lot of knocking your head around. So, and obviously if you take any turns that take you to the left or right in exposed places, yeah, you're going to get all that stuff. So, you know, but get out and ride. It's good fun, and it'll strengthen your neck muscles if you're out in the real winds. But anything I think below 25 miles an hour, or let's say 20 miles an hour, it is not really a big deal. It's the 25 up to 35 plus mile-an-hour gusts which are really going to test your metal. So ride it like you stole it, and buy your machine from a good quality dealership if possible, because they'll take care of you and they'll look after you. And if you've got a question or a problem, you can call them up or pop in and visit with them, and they can take a look and they'll help sort you out. And they're not trying to rip you off, they're just trying to make a living. So if you've got an issue with your machine, go back and tell them. When I first got on my machine and I rode it away from the dealership, within 5 minutes I thought the whole thing was falling apart because of this drumming vibration that was coming off the drive belt. At the time I thought, oh, they've just replaced 3 of the wheels. I wonder if they've tightened all the nuts up properly, because the thing was just like a maniac. It was noisy and it was almost vibrating, and it was just horrible. And I thought, oh gosh, this doesn't seem right. So I took it back, and the chief mechanic who serviced it, he had showed me it was, and he took it out for a ride and he said, no, that's just exactly how they all are. He said they all just have that drumming thing. He says you can put a belt dampener, tension dampener on it, and that will help a little bit if you want to. But he said they have a frequency response resonance at certain frequencies, and that's what mine was. So it scared the heck out of me when I first bought it, but I've come to like, I hardly notice it anymore. So do take your machine to a dealership and make sure you do have it serviced. You know, I can't stress that too much. It's fun to do it yourself sometimes it's not. And if you're not a mechanic, or you don't enjoy doing practical things, this thing will test you, because there's a lot of panels and messing around taking stuff off, a lot more than you do on a motorcycle. So take it to the dealership, get them to evaluate it, get them to tell you how much it's going to cost to repair. But expect you're going to be paying a bit for it. You know, if you had a Rolls Royce car, you'd probably expect to be paying quite a bit for the maintenance. Well, you've got the Rolls Royce of 3-wheelers, the best thing on the market as far as I'm concerned. So you get a clue to whether I'd buy another one or not. And make sure that this machine of yours is stored carefully, properly, with a good cover over it. I've got a little video, a fun video of how to roll out the cover and put it back on again, because otherwise it can become quite comical trying to work out which side is which, and which way is round and which way is back to front, which way is up and down. And I've worked out a very simple way of making it quick and easy. So if you watch that video, check it out in my playlist of mods. If you don't have a garage, then at least get yourself one of the decent covers, and I'll list one down in the description down below, so you'll get the best one as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, ride regularly. I keep stressing this, and ride responsibly. Make sure you know how to service and maintain your vehicle. When you're riding in the winter, the tire pressures will go down because of the cold air. It shrinks, and the pressure inside the tires will go down. You're supposed to keep the front wheels at about 19 psi and the back one about 29 psi. Well, if you ride it in the winter time, the tires pressure will drop. So have yourself an electric tire pressure gauge and pump, and you can do that yourself. Just pressure them up. I think I mentioned before, get yourself a cheap tire pressure monitor, which I found one that's specific for 3-wheelers, and I'll put that in the description. And there's also a video of how to fit it, and my other comments about it elsewhere. So look in my list again for those. And you know, you can do that. And then in the summer, the temperature goes up, the air expands, so you need to let some air out and keep it back down at that 19 and 29. If you load the machine up, you've got to change it slightly, but you know, all that comes into play. But it's something you should know about. You've got a good instruction manual that comes with it. You've got to just read through it and find the bits that you can relate to, or else go online and watch lots of videos so that you've got the knowledge. The knowledge is the key to keeping these bikes running. So let's do a recap. You want to be looking at the cost of a second-hand machine. You want to look at the maximum mileage. You want to look at the reliability issues it might have had, checked any dealership records and reports, especially the servicing and oil changing and those sort of things. Maintenance that's been done on it, anything that's been changed, any modifications that have been added that will enhance its value or improve the handling or the performance or the lighting or whatever. You've got things like, can you ride already? If you can ride already, you're going to find the Spyder a doddle to ride, and you've probably also got a license that will cover you to do it. If you are a beginner, this thing is a doddle to ride for a beginner too. You just get on it and ride it. It's the hardest part of it is remembering the sequence to switch it on, because there's a little technique to that. But once you get that, that's that's it. That's easy. The riding side of it is so simple and easy. Now in different states, you might be able to ride on an existing vehicle license, or you might have to get a specific trike addition to your license, or just a trike license on its own if you don't ride anything else or drive anything else. Or you can have it on a motorcycle. If you've already got it a motorcycle endorsement or license, then you can ride it straight on that. So, and some, I don't know, some states might allow you to ride without anything, but look it up, find out, make sure you know what it is. Cost of insurance, something to consider. I don't think it's very expensive to insure. I'm surprised that it's as cheap as it is. But these things need checking. Check where it's been stored if you can. Find out as much about it as you can. Have the tires been replaced? Has the drive belt been replaced? Has the battery been replaced? What else has been done to it? What else has been needed to be done to it? What comes with it? All the additions that's been added. Does it come with a trailer? Does it come with a trailer hitch? That's a great bonus if you can get one of those. The weak spots, well, you've got to make sure that it's been well maintained and stored correctly and serviced correctly. So it doesn't have any, as far as I'm concerned. I've had no problems with mine over the year, so I'm very happy. Compare it to the other machines that are around. Go down to a dealership and ride a few things. Try the Riker, and try the Spyder RT, and see what you like. Get a test ride on a new one. If you don't, even if you don't have the money, you can always go for a test ride, and then you can see what the state of the art is. And then going back to a second-hand one, you can see what some of the differences are, and you might think you're saving money. And you are, if you don't need the little fancy gizmos that's on the latest shiny bright toy. The older toys are still pretty nice. So yeah, that's a good thing. You can look for things like brake replacement, brake pad replacements. The mileage will come into account there, how many miles you got, and obviously that's a big consideration. As I said, 60,000 is possibly a point that I've seen on the internet where people consider the engine and transmission may be coming to the end of its life. But I've seen people up in the 120s, 120,000, and they're still going strong. I know people, even in their 80s, who are riding these things tens of thousands of miles a year and are getting full pleasure out of them. So a well-used machine, some people just trade it in after 3 years or 2 years and buy another new one. So you could be getting a good deal out of a high mileage or higher mileage, because the price will reflect the mileage as well as it will the additional items, as well as it will the year. And as I say, I would ideally recommend that you stay above a 2016 upwards. The big $28,000 question: would I buy one again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. If I could have two, and I'd let my wife ride one, yeah, definitely would have two. They are so much fun. I can't praise them enough. And if you've noticed, I do have a channel, Spyder Rider Kev, and if you subscribe and then like all the videos, go through them all and like them all, and leave comments about anything you want to, ask me questions. I'm also on Facebook, Spyder Rider Kev. So contact me, follow along with me, you know, enjoy, get yourself a Spyder, get yourself a Riker, get yourself a Harley trike, or the, you know, whatever you want. Get out and ride and have the fun that you've always wanted. And it's down to just getting out there and being safe. So whatever you do, ride safe. Consider where you're riding and enjoy the ride. Okay, hope maybe to see you out there one day. Take care. This is Spyder Rider Kev.